We're starting a new series today, and this series is going to run right up into our Advent series, which will start the second week of December. This series is called Commitments That Can Change Your Life. I was thinking about kind of what I'd like to share with you over the next 3 or 4 weeks, and one of the things I thought might be helpful is, obviously, we believe that Jesus lived on the earth. He's God in the flesh. He came, he gave his life, he was sacrificed on Calvary, he rose from the grave on the third day. We believe that to our core. We believe that that's the most important thing anybody could ever know, to believe in Christ, to put their faith and trust in Jesus. We believe that that's it. But on the other side of that, I know a lot of people who have that basic belief, but their life still sucks. Their life still is a mess. They're still negative Nancy about everything. They still have difficulties in relationships. They just don't seem to get it. There's a lot of things that they have bought into in their first part of their life, and it hasn't actually gotten worked out yet. We talked a few weeks ago about how what God has planted in us is then worked out. That's part of our salvation, is the working out of what's in us to be worked out. So I just thought these commitments would be very helpful for us to think about. And I also know that of the commitments I'm going to share over the next 4 weeks, some of them you have already. You're going to say, I got that one. But there's going to be others that are going to come up. They're going to say, that's one I maybe need to think about. Some of these commitments, I've told you that the kind of a routine for me is every morning before the alarm goes off, I get up on one elbow and I spend about 15 minutes and I just think through the day. I think through what I'm going to be doing, and I think through the commitments that I have made, what it means to me, and I go through the 4 things I'm going to share over the next 4 weeks. I go through these every single morning. Some of these commitments, I have been making the same prayer every morning since I was in my teens. Some of these commitments I didn't realize until I was in my 30s, some in my 40s, some I'm just now beginning to get a handle on. So these are just things that I found very, very helpful, and I hope you will too. Now, it's important for you to be honest. It's important for you to be honest. And even if you think off the bat that you're really good on one of the commitments I'm going to share, stay with me, because you might find some areas that you can improve on. But that honesty is important. This past week, I was reminded of a story that happened when the grandkids were very, very young. They're very, very young now, but they were very, very, very young then. We had just gotten a sofa from one of our church members. Their parents had moved into a senior citizen's home, and so we had bought a sofa for a room that we had added to the back of our house. Beautiful sofa, absolutely stunning sofa, very comfortable, very beautiful. It's got an interesting fabric on it, and we had the grandkids over, and we were going to serve them ice cream, chocolate ice cream. And I remember Jane saying specifically to Cooper Presley and Avery, look at me very carefully, do not take the ice cream into the big room close to the sofa. Stay away from the sofa in the big room. Do you understand, Cooper? Do you understand, Presley? Do you understand, Avery? Yes, yes, yes. Everybody got it. So they did the ice cream thing. Day passed, no big deal. Later that evening, Jane walks into the living room and she shrieks. For there on the sofa is a chocolate ice cream stain. And I was in another room, but I heard the shriek and I knew exactly what had happened. And so I ran in, and so she yelled for the kids, and they came in. And my wife is mild-mannered, and she is very sweet, and she's loving, and she is kind. But do not cross her, because she also going to be very, very tough, and she was going to get to the bottom of the ice cream stain on the sofa in the great room. So she sat the kids down, and she was very, very forceful. She had told them, and then she said, I want you to be honest. You tell me who did this. And Cooper was like, Cooper did not do it. And Presley was like, did not do it. And Avery. And I really wasn't surprised, because I actually had dropped the ice cream on the sofa. And I was not saying anything. I was just I was not going to get on my wife's bad side, and we're just going to let the kids, this is just a lesson for them that they just need to be more careful, but I was not saying that. So sometimes it is critically important for you to be willing to be honest and say, I struggle here. I can guarantee the talk I'm going to give you today, there are at least 30-40% of the people, this is something you need to hear, so you stay with me. I'm going to start by reading from a dog's diary and a cat's diary, okay? How many of you are dog people? Can I just see your hands? You're dog people. Most people. How many are cat people? Is Bill Whitlock here? He is a cat person. We have some cat people here, and that's all right. All right. A dog diary. This is a day in the life of a dog. 8 a.m. Dog food, my favorite thing, 9:30 a.m. A car ride, my favorite thing, 9:40. A walk in the park, my favorite thing, 10:30 a.m. I got rubbed and petted, my favorite thing, 12 p.m. Lunch, my favorite thing. 1 p.m., played in the yard, my favorite thing. 3 p.m., I wagged my tail, favorite thing. 5 p.m., milk bones, my favorite thing. 7 p.m., got to play ball, that's my favorite thing. 8 p.m., wow, I got to watch TV with the people, that's my favorite thing. And at 11 p.m., I am sleeping on the bed, my favorite thing. That's the diary in the day of a dog. Now the diary from the day of a cat. Day 983 of my captivity. My captors continue to taunt me with bizarre little dangling objects. They dine lavishly on fresh meat while the other inmates and I are fed hash or some sort of dry nuggets. Although I make my contempt for the rations perfectly clear, I nevertheless must eat something in order to keep up my strength. The only thing that keeps me going is my dream of escape. In my attempt to disgust them, I once again vomited on the carpet. Today I decapitated a mouse and dropped its headless body at their feet. I had hoped this would strike fear into their hearts, since it clearly demonstrates what I am capable of. However, they merely made a condescending comment about what a good little hunter I am. Fools they are. There was some sort of assembly of their accomplices tonight, and I was placed in solitary confinement for the duration of the event. However, I could hear the noises and I could smell the food. I overheard that my confinement was due to the power of allergies. I must learn what this means and how to use it to my advantage. Today I was almost successful in an attempt to assassinate one of my tormentors by weaving around his feet as he was walking. I must try this again tomorrow, but do it at the top of the stairs. I am convinced that the other prisoners here are flunkies and snitches. The dog receives special privileges. He is regularly released and seems to be more than willing to return. He is obviously stupid. The bird must be an informant. I observed him communicating with the guards regularly. I am certain that he reports my every move. My captors have arranged protective custody for him in an elevated cell, so he is safe. For now, he is safe. I will keep you posted. That's the diary of a cat. Now, I want today to talk to all of you about, at least in the perspective you have on life, becoming more like the dog diary and less like the cat diary. I want to talk to you about how important it is to have a great attitude in this life. Now, let me be quick to say, I know that you go through horrific things. I know every week we would be overwhelmed if we just shared a microphone and said, tell us the story of the last week. Some of you have sat in courtrooms this past week, and it was terrifying to you. Some of you had a gun put to your head this past week. That is a terrifying experience. Some of you heard the doctor say, your condition is very, very serious, or maybe a loved one's condition is very, very serious. Some of you didn't get the money you thought you were going to get, and now you don't know what you're going to do as you prepare for the days and the weeks ahead. I know all of those things are true. But while we have to go through different kind of stuff in this life, the man or the woman who understands how a positive perspective can help them ends up going through this life far better than the person who is negative and whines and complains. I love this scripture from the Message. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 2. The Message is a paraphrase. It's a beautiful reading, and this is one of the wisdom writings. Ecclesiastes 10:2, the Message says this: wise thinking leads to right living. Stupid thinking leads to wrong living. Some of us have practiced stupid living a lot, and it's one of the reasons we keep getting what we're getting, because we keep doing what we're doing, and it's just one vicious cycle. Well, some people say, what is a positive attitude, Ray? You can write this down if you'd like. A positive attitude is a philosophy of approaching life with optimism and confidence. Let me say that again. A positive attitude is a philosophy of approaching life with optimism and confidence. Developing a positive attitude requires replacing negative thinking with positive. to create a successful outlook on life and experiences. It's just the way that you see things. And I want to suggest, as a follower of Christ, we have every reason in the world to see things through positive eyes and have a positive perspective rather than a negative perspective. Outside of the Bible, one of the best books I have ever read is a book called As a Man Thinketh. It was written approximately 100 years ago. And it was really the precursor to much of what has been written about positive thinking over the last 100 years. The author is James Allen, and this is just one of the things he said. You are today where your thoughts have brought you. Now I want you to think about that. If you're sitting in a mess right now, you are today where your thoughts have brought you. You will be tomorrow where your thoughts take you. There's a lot of truth to that. Now, not in every situation, but there is a lot of truth to that statement. Your attitude can make you or it can break you. Your attitude can heal you or it can hurt you. Your attitude can help you make friends or it can help you make enemies. Your attitude can make you happy or your attitude can make you miserable. Your attitude can make you a success or your attitude can make you a failure. We live in a world designed to deplete us of all of our positive charge. We see it every day. Someone cuts you off on the way to work. You feel a little bit of that positive charge gone. You forgot your wallet at home, which means you won't be able to get lunch today. That positive charge is gone. You get the bill at the end of the month, and it's way more than you were expecting to pay for your utilities. That positive charge, a little less gone. Someone ate your sandwich that was in the refrigerator at work. Your positive charge is gone. Your favorite sports team loses again. That positive charge gone a little bit more. Your child seems to be disrespecting you again. That positive charge is gone a little bit more. The temp stole your stuff from the supply room. Your positive charge is gone. Your social life is unbelievably boring. Every night you say, this is just horrible. You feel the positive charge going. You fought with your spouse. The positive charge is lower. Someone forgot to put the dog out and they made a mess. Your positive charge is lower. The weather, it's just too hot or it's too cold or there's too much pollen in Georgia or why is it raining all the time or the government is spending too much of our money or the government's not doing its job or the government is too concerned with social issues or the government's not concerned enough with social issues. We do this over and over and over every day and the positive charge gets depleted from our lives. And yet what's the alternative? You can't live in a world where you're not affected with things happening every day. Norman Vincent Peale said this, the only people without problems are those in a cemetery. And that's true. I mean, I'm telling you, thank God for problems. It means you're alive. It means that you've got something to live for. It means there's a new day for you. So I want to talk to you about your attitude. I believe some people here are very good with this. This happens to be one of those areas that I have done pretty well my whole life. I look back and I was captain of the sports teams that I played on, not because I was the best athlete, because I certainly wasn't the best athlete, but I had a really good attitude. And most of the jobs I've ever had, I moved up through the ranks because I had a really good attitude. And so I think that this is something that I have a little bit of experience on. It's not that I do it right all the time. There's times that I'll go south, and Jane will send me a little email, and it'll be, honey, I think you'll love to watch this, and it'll be a little YouTube clip, and I'll flip to it, and it'll be one of my sermons on attitude. It's like, okay, I get the point. I got to do it again. I'm sorry, I've been a little bit discouraged. I get it. But I want everybody to have a good attitude. So write these things down. We're going to move quickly. These are 6 things that are important, very important, and the first one is this. Why is attitude so important? I believe our attitude to a large degree helps determine our destiny. I believe our attitude to a large degree helps determine our destiny. It affects every area of my life, in fact. The expression on my face is caused by my attitude, the things I say, my body language, my work habits, my personality, the way I dress, my health. The power of attitude is that everything of real value to you today starts with that. That's how powerful it is. Everything of value starts with your attitude. Success. Some of you say, I just want to be more successful. I want to do better. It starts with a good attitude. I've never seen it any other way than starting with a good attitude. Improvement starts with a good attitude. Getting new business, if you're an entrepreneur, starts with attitude. Better customer service starts with a good attitude. Winning starts with a good attitude. Better relationship starts with attitude. Earning more money starts with attitude. Losing weight And getting into good shape starts with a good attitude. Getting hired starts with a good attitude. I have seen this over the last few years. I have seen a person with credentials and a bad attitude get passed over for jobs, while somebody who did not have credentials but had a great attitude somehow found a way. And I've seen it more than once. It starts with a good, positive attitude. Now, there's instruction all through the Bible to watch your attitude. The King James Version in Proverbs 23:7 says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So you want to make sure that you're positive in your heart. Jesus taught us that as believers, we could face the world differently. We could have a different worldview, a different attitude. I love this from the Amplified Version, John 16:33. The Amplified simply takes words and then amplifies the words and gives you every possible meaning in the original language, all right? John 16:33, Jesus says this, I have told you these things so that in me you may have, we would just read in our regular translation, peace, but this is perfect peace and confidence. In the world you have tribulation and trials and distresses and frustration, but you be of good cheer. Take courage, be confident, certain, undaunted, for I have overcome the world. I have deprived it of power to harm you and have conquered it for you. Jesus says as a follower of his, you can have a fantastic attitude because you're going to face troubles, but he's overcome the world. Jesus said in this life you'll have troubles. Paul said it like this, trials are common to every man. The optimist and the pessimist both experience the same things. They just focus on them a little differently. Is your focus good or is your focus bad? It's a true principle. A man reaps what he sows. A man reaps what he sows. This week I was reading about two construction workers. At lunchtime, they were taking a break. And one of the guys sitting down opened his lunch pail and just began to cuss up a blue streak. Another bologna sandwich, he said. And he just got madder and madder and madder. This makes me sick. I can't stand bologna sandwiches. This is the most embarrassing thing in the world. On and on and on. The other guy said, hey, buddy, take it easy. Just talk to your wife and tell her. He said, wait a minute. The first guy said, you leave my wife out of this. I fix my own lunch. You know what I've discovered? Most of the bologna you have in your life and I have in my life, you packed it. And I packed it. Most of the bologna in my life I packed. And I've got to learn to change the way I think if I want to see things happen differently. Write this down. My attitude determines how well I do in relationship with other people. My attitude determines how well I do in relationship with other people. I like this quote from James Allen, the author that we talked about earlier. Our life is what our thoughts make it. A man will find that as he alters his thoughts toward things and other people will alter towards him. And to show you the truth in this, the Stanford Research Institute did a study recently and found the money you will make in any endeavor is determined by 12.5% of your knowledge, but 87.5% of your ability to deal well with other people. It's a big deal. What this means to me is I want to, in every circumstance, take the high road when I deal with other people. Always take the high road. You say, Ray, break that down for me. Well, the low road is this. You treat others worse than they treated you. That's the low road. And some people, sadly, even in church, take the low road. They treat people worse than the people have treated them. The middle road is this. We treat others the same as they treat us. It's almost like a quid pro quo. You treat me well, I'll treat you well. But the high road says we treat others better than they treat us. We're going to treat people better than they treat us, which should be our mantra. And doesn't that sound a lot like Jesus when he said, do unto others as you would have them do unto you? That's how we want to live. Number 3, my attitude contributes to how well I adjust to change. My attitude contributes to how well I adjust to change. Daniel is a famous figure in the Old Testament. We're familiar with the story of Daniel in the lion's den. But what you may not know is Daniel was a young man taken into Babylonian captivity. He was a wonderful man. And while he was taken into captivity, the Babylonians quickly recognized something about him. Now, I was reading all different translations this week on this verse, and I stumbled into the Orthodox Jewish Bible translation. And let me share that with you because I think this is very, very interesting. This is about Daniel and how he has impressed the Babylonians. Then this Daniel distinguished himself above the overseers and satraps. And satrap, by the way, was the name given to the governors of the provinces of both the Babylonian Empire and the Persian Empire. So Daniel has distinguished himself above the overseers and satraps or governors, because an excellent ruach, and that means spirit in Hebrew, because an excellent spirit was in him. And the king thought to set him over the whole Malchut or kingdom. I'd never seen that before. Daniel distinguished himself because an excellent spirit was in him. And I thought, ooh, I want that to be said of me. I want people to say he wasn't necessarily the brightest. He wasn't perfect by a million miles. He wasn't perfect, but there was an excellent spirit in him. That even if he missed it, he quickly, as soon as he realized it, got back on the high road. He wanted to live his life on the high road. An excellent spirit was in him. I hope it could be said of you as well. My wife, one of her greatest gifts, I believe, is she is willing to be flexible. She married me almost 6 years ago, and she had had a very wonderful life, but very different than being the wife of a pastor. And she has had to be incredibly flexible. But you know what? She just handles it. She just handles it. Now, there are a few things that she's immovable about, and I understand that. She's put her foot down, and she says, this is what and I know what those are, and they're important, and I say, absolutely, sweetheart, that's true. But she's so flexible about so many things. She's will try food she's never, ever thought she would eat. She's been to places that she never dreamed she would go. She's met people that she never thought she would meet. And she just takes it so good. That is a sign of a great attitude when you are flexible. I know people who say, no, no, no. It's hard to really experience life the way you could experience it if you're not open to change. The new normal in this world is you better get used to change because it's happening. If you're somebody that wants it just like it was, sorry. Things change. Number 4, write this down. Another reason attitude is important is my attitude lets me turn problems into possibilities. A good attitude lets me turn problems into possibilities. Do you know most breakthroughs in life came when someone was up against an insurmountable situation, and instead of going south and getting in a moping, whining posture, they said, we got to figure something out. We have to figure out how we can beat this. We have to figure out how we can get through this. And in getting through it, it actually was the defining moment in their life. Few thought much about Abraham Lincoln until the great weight of the Civil War showed his character. He did not ask for it, but it's what he had to go through, and we saw his character. Daniel Defoe wrote Robinson Crusoe, but he wrote it in prison. That prison experience gave him the insight to write that. John Bunyan wrote The Pilgrim's Progress. Most of the Psalms were written in heartbreak. The epistles were mostly written in prison. Sir Walter Raleigh wrote the history of the world during a 13-year imprisonment. Beethoven was almost totally deaf when he wrote his greatest symphony. And Florence Nightingale was on her deathbed, but she was reorganizing the hospitals of England. And we now know her as a wonderful, wonderful person because of what she did. Bury a person in the snow at Valley Forge, and with the right attitude, you have a George Washington. Raise a person in abject poverty, and they can grow up to be an Abraham Lincoln. Strike a person with infantile paralysis, and if they have the right attitude, you have a Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Cause them to grow up black in a racist society, and the right person, you have a Martin Luther King Jr. or a John Lewis. Have a girl be sexually abused by her uncle and then other family members, but with the right attitude, you get an Oprah Winfrey who tries to do as much as she can to help change the world. I say again, my attitude lets me turn problems into possibilities. Number 5, write it down, please. My attitude helps me walk through the toughest of times. My attitude helps me walk through the toughest of times. Without a doubt, the human mind is the most awesome creation of God. With it, God has given us the ability to think, to reason, and to choose whether we're going to focus on positive thoughts or negative thoughts. In every one of our lives, there is the positive and the negative. And yet the choice is left up to us, which one we're going to focus on, which one we're going to feed, which one we're going to nurture. But we get to choose what will happen with our thoughts. Oh, we don't know what's going to happen to us today, but what we do with those thoughts, we are the ones that get to choose. The picture on the screen is Dr. Viktor Frankl. He stood under the glaring lights of the Gestapo court in a Nazi concentration camp. Soldiers had taken away from Victor every earthly possession. They had taken his clothes, his watch, even his wedding ring. And as Dr. Frankl stood there naked, his body shaved before those cruel men who tried to take every ounce of dignity from him. But at that very moment, Frankl said he realized he was destitute except for one thing. He still had something that no one could take from him, not even the Nazis. He still had the power to choose his own attitude. And he chose to not give that attitude to his enemies. He chose in that moment joy. He chose in that moment hope. He chose in that moment to be positive. Maybe right now you're feeling pretty broken. Your life has taken too many turns for the worse, and you are feeling horrific this morning. Maybe a lot of things have gone wrong, and it seems like everything has fallen down on top of you. You're weary, overwhelmed, and your hopes and dreams are fading fast. I know from personal experience that it's not easy when all the stuff of life hits you in the head, knocks you down, and then seems to kick you in the stomach to where you can't even breathe. But in such times, you have to remember that there is something that your situation can never take away from you. There is something that not the Nazis, not cancer, not cerebral palsy, not paralysis, or even what you are facing can take away from you, and that is your power to choose your attitude. You get to choose. See, it's not something we just excuse people and say, well, you just got to understand. No, you get to choose your attitude. No matter what has happened to you, tough times, bad marriages, health, struggles, the attitude choice is still yours. And it's still mine. So every morning when I get up on that elbow, I say, God, today, I don't know what I was going to come into my life, but today, I want to have a good attitude all day long. I want to take the high road all day long. I want to bless those that want to persecute me. I want to pray for those who want to hurt me. I want to be positive. If I get a chance to leave a tip at a restaurant, Lord, help me leave a big tip today, because I just want to bless people today. My final point is this: my attitude can make life sweet. My attitude can make life sweet. My mother-in-law is one of the sweetest people that I know on the planet. Her name is Joyce. The grandkids call her Nana Joyce. Don't mishear this. She is a lot like the dog in the diary story at the very beginning. Every day, she'll call Jane and she'll say, I went to a meeting with all my people I used to work with at the Gulf Oil, and that was the best meeting I think we've ever had. Or she'll say, we had a dinner at church last night, and I guarantee that was the best dinner. That was the best cornbread I think I have ever eaten in my whole life. We had a singing at our church. Ray, I'm telling you, that's the best group I think I have ever heard in my whole life. This car I'm driving, I love this car. This is the best car I have ever had. Everything she says, it's just the best. And I think I want to grow old just like that. I want to be at 60 way happier than at 50. At 70, I want people to say, he's wagging his tail. He seems happy about everything. At 80, I want people to say his heart just seems to be getting bigger. He just seems to have a bigger smile on his face. I want my attitude to be sweet in all things. Well, quickly, how do you do it? Write these 3 things down quickly. Speak positive words. Learn to speak positive words. Every once in a while, negative words will come out, and I'll hear my wife, who is wonderful, because she never embarrasses me, which is very sweet. Usually guys don't like being embarrassed in front of folks. She doesn't embarrass me, but the other day I started to say something negative, and she said, and I just knew, it's like, that's right. That's exactly right. So I just backed it up. Just not going to say that. Well, learn how to speak positive words. It's important. Speaking positively is something you have to learn. It's not something you do naturally. It's something you learn. But this is true, and you may want to write this somewhere. You help create the atmosphere in which you live by the words you speak. You know what Joyce Shadinger, my mother-in-law, is creating? She is creating a beautiful world around her because she speaks beautiful words all the time. She's just happy every day when she wakes up. She's just happy. It's like, Lord, the Lord has given me another day. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. When your words are positive, you produce a creative, loving, accepting, positive environment around you. But when your words are negative, you create suspicion, mistrust, and a can't do anything right around you attitude. And some of you, that is like Pigpen in Charlie Brown. You just have this thing around you all the time. You just can look and say, ooh, I don't want to get in close to that. And you don't want that to be your life. I dare you to try a little experiment. To everyone you meet, whether it's at a gas station or whether it's in a store or home or at church, try to say something positive and uplifting. Just try. It's amazing how you can. I've had waiters and waitresses, you have too, that have come over and they're just kind of scowling. And I can scowl back if I want to, but you know what I try to do? I try to find some little way to just say something to them that maybe would lift the load a little bit. I can't imagine how you're able to do all that you do. I'm sure glad you're my server today. You look like you really know what you're doing. Something. And you see them kind of release a little because the positive words have created something good. Number 2, look for good and find it. Look for good and find it. Any circumstance. Had an experience this week. Won't go into the details. Just an experience that was a different kind of experience. It was a negative experience. It was something that was not deserved. It was just something that had to go through. Okay, something had to go through. And I could have been very negative about it, but I tried to say, what can I get through this that's positive? What can I learn? What are some of the things I can take from this that'll be helpful? How can I take the high road, not the low road? How can I make this be something positive in my life? A positive person, and that's the kind of person I want to be, is not one who refuses to recognize the negative. I know there's plenty of negative things in this world. I just refuse to dwell on them. I'm not going to dwell on them. I'm going to always try to find the positive that I can focus on. I love the story in the Bible where Moses sends out the 12 spies to go spy out the promised land and bring him back the report. And 10 of the spies came back and they said, we can't take them. There's giants in the land. There's soldiers too big for us to conquer. But 2 came back and said, wow, that's the most amazing land we've ever seen. It's flowing with milk and honey. God is so good to us. I want to be that guy that always sees it that way. Third thing I want to say is this: learn to take charge of our thought life. Learn to take charge of our thought life. If you just let your thoughts go wherever, they're going to always go towards the negative. If you feed your mind with negative stuff, it's going to be bad. I'm guaranteeing you. You've got to fight for what goes into your mind. Put positive things in. If you're watching a TV show and you feel it just something's not right about it, turn it off. If it's something that is not edifying, that's not something that's making you feel I enjoyed that movie the other day in the sense that I wanted to revisit true history. I wanted to feel some of the pain that people went through a few hundred years ago. I wanted to see how God could have been with them through something so horrible and gruesome. But there was something redemptive to me about the story. But if it's just seamy, nothing redeeming, I don't want to be there. I don't want to be there. And I guarantee I want to live a life where I whine less and less and less, where I moan and groan less and less and less. You guys know that Jane and I are on Facebook. We're primarily on Facebook because we like seeing pictures of our grandkids and our kids, and we just like everything. If you post a picture, we like it. We just think it's really neat. Everybody does that. It's great. But there's more moaning and groaning and whining on Facebook than anything I have ever seen in my whole life. And I simply hide people there. Some of you aren't Facebook people, but you can push a little button, which means these people that whine all the time, they don't show up on your page anymore. And that's been like the greatest invention in the whole world. Because when you hear somebody whining all the time, they just are repelling people from them. The other day, a smart lady who lives in a big, beautiful house with healthy kids and a husband that makes a great income She went off on her health insurance going up, and it was just crazy. It was like, really? Really? You can tell the whole world how you're thinking and feeling, and that's what you want to do? You want to put that out there? And I just know I want to be a person that's not a whiner, and I know you want to be a person that's not a whiner. I want to close with my favorite deal. I've shared it before, but I want to share it one more time because I just love it. My dad taught me the poem, and it is what my prayer is still for me. I taught it to my nieces, and I think my grandkids are almost at the age where I'm going to teach it to them. They may need to be a few more years older, but this is a good little policy to live by if you want to have a good attitude. Listen to this. Today upon a bus, I saw a lovely girl with golden hair, and I envied her. She looked so happy, and I wished I were as fair. When suddenly she rose to leave, and as she hobbled down the aisle, she had one leg, and she wore a crutch. But as she passed, she smiled. Oh God, forgive me when I whine. I have two legs, and the world is mine. Later on my way to work, I stopped to buy some sweets, and the lad who sold them had such charm. I talked to him a while. If I were late, 'twould do no harm. As I turned to leave, he said to me, "Thank you, sir, for being so kind. It's nice to talk to men like you. You see," he said, "I'm blind." Oh, God, forgive me when I whine. I have two eyes, and the world is mine. Later, walking down the street, I saw a lad with eyes of blue. He stood and he watched the others play. Seemed he didn't know exactly what to do. And I said, "Why don't you go and join the others, dear?" But he looked straight ahead, and he spoke not a word. And then I knew he could not hear. Oh, God, forgive me when I whine. I have two ears, and the world is mine. With legs to take me where I'd go, and with eyes to see the sunsets glow, and with ears to hear what I should know. Oh God, forgive me when I whine, for I am blessed indeed, and the world is mine. Make that your prayer. Stop whining. Have a positive attitude that reflects we are children of God. He lives in us. This world, we are more than conquerors, the Bible says, because he lives in us. The Bible says all things are possible to those who believe. We have every reason in the world to wake up and say, "Good morning, Lord." Let that be how you approach each day. Would you bow your heads, please? Father, thank you so much for this day and for us to take a few moments thinking about what does it mean to have a positive perspective on life. I pray these will not just be empty words, but I pray as we leave this place, we will put it into practice immediately. In fact, before we leave this place, we will find people that we can say a positive word to, that we find somebody maybe we don't know and we can say something encouraging to them. And then when we leave and we go to a restaurant, we'll say encouraging words. And when we go home, we'll say encouraging words. And when we talk to our friends or our family, we will say encouraging, positive words. That we will stop the negative talk. We'll stop the whining. We'll stop the moaning. We'll stop the backbiting. We'll stop the hurtful sayings. And we will make sure that we say good things. And Father, that you will help us look around and in every circumstance find the sunshine in the cloud. Find the light at the end of the tunnel. Find that place where you are in every circumstance. And we'll control our thoughts. We won't let them just take us wherever they want to take us, but we'll say, I'm going to control these thoughts. I'm going to submit them to God. Lord, I thank you for every person here. I thank you for Jesus who came to save us. And then I pray for each person in this place who understands now that Christ is in our hearts, you want to make us better people, healthier people, more alive people. May it be so this day, in Jesus' name.